Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I also sit in on meetings. All meetings, everyone.
How about
everyone.
that flurry this morning?
I want to start there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because that touched a nerve. Big time.
Snyder
New
syndrome.
owner.
Snyder syndrome is
New
what's happening.
owner. Here's a question. Why does Adam Schefter know that? Just what?
Good
Like,
question.
that's a purposeful thing to say to him. Mm-hmm. Why? Why did they go out of their way to tell him that?
I think so.
Because he's not in the room with them, so he doesn't know that.
I think there's layers here. I think this is someone trying to stir up the fan base, and I don't know who, because very quickly, Sam Fortier tweeted out, like, literally within the same hour, he was only there to observe, didn't ask any questions.
Well, because a fire started.
Of course. And so that's why I think
we'll go through, is this a big fire or not?
Right.
I'd like to think it's not. But I know the PTSD version of this.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is why I go, were they not paying attention to what some of the faults of the previous owner was that actually touches the nerve of the fan base? Because that's why I asked the initial question. Let me set this up, because I haven't just said what this is. Adam Schefter reported today Josh Harris has been in the interview rooms with the quarterback specifically, and I would assume with other potential,
first round picks.
Clearly, we're probably taking a quarterback, but
right.
yes, I'm sure if they're meeting with Joe Alt, they're talking to him. If they're meeting with Marvin Harrison, they're obviously why wouldn't you?
That's right.
Of course you would. So but he's there, and Adam Schefter reported that this morning that Josh Harris is in the room. He didn't report Jim Irsay's in the room with anybody, Jerry Jones in the room with anybody. He reported this.
Yep.
I also don't remember any time in the past where it was made known that the owner was part of that interview process. So that was unusual too, which means they told him this.
Well,
why did they tell him this?
Well, the other part of this is Harris did say in a public interview, I forget if it was the Post or the Athletic, he said he was in the draft room in the NBA and he planned to be there for the NFL. But he didn't say he made the picks. It was that he
wants to know the process.
Yes, exactly. So,
and in the NBA, for crying out loud, one guy changes everything.
That's correct. Exactly right.
So, I think everybody ought to be in the room and listen or whatever, or Big Brother it and listen to it.
Sure.
Because one guy changes everything. And what this also reads like in saying it really just telegraphs they are taking a quarterback that high. By saying it, that's the only reason I can come up with that they would divulge that.
Yeah.
Because Schefter's not in the room. He would confirm with the team, was he in the room if someone said he was, like an agent says, the owner was in there. That's possible how it happened. I'm sure Schefter's calling around asking the representatives for Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams, how were your interviews with the Commanders? This could have happened in a number of ways. The team could have told him for whatever reason.
Sure.
Or the player, or more likely the representative, when asked by someone like Schefter, how did it go with them? Because he's trying to figure out what everyone's going to do.
Of course.
And they say to him, well, you know what? Actually, the owner was in there.
Yep.
And then he has to then go to the Commanders and go, is that true? Which it was. Why would they lie? But they were like, why, was he in there? And they said, yes, he was. And then it touched off a nerve because it's oh God, there's some Snyder tendencies.
Right.
And what you cannot show this fan base at all ever is Snyder tendencies. Can't cut down the trees in Potomac. Can't buy a large mansion in Mount Vernon.
Well,
can't get a yacht yet, Josh. Sorry, not yet.
Not yet.
You might be able to get one, but not one off the coast of Nice, France. Okay?
So my pushback right away, because I was actually in for Tony this morning, so at 11, it was all popping off right before I came on.
Breaking news, owner of Commanders in room talking to prospects.
And I had to do a guys, and I'll reiterate it here.
I'm a guys on this one too. But I understood, when I saw it, I went, oh no. I was waiting for the replies. Because I know, other fan base might not have a problem with this. I know why ours was going to have a problem with this.
What I pushed back right away was, guys, please don't let the one little thing undo everything else that has happened this offseason. Getting Adam Peters in the door, getting Quinn to be on board, getting him and getting Kingsbury and Joe Witt Jr., the fact that you literally yesterday or 2 days ago that they're pumping $75 million into the stadium they're about to leave. Like, all things Dan didn't do. Don't let this one thing undo all of the things they've already said that they're going to do and things you haven't even seen behind the scenes. Like, they had to pump money into the stadium. Like,
I'm guys too. I am. And this is first go around. And I will say this too. They are going to pick a quarterback here. That's what it signals more than anything. Yeah. And maybe it shouldn't signal that, but it screams that. Like, would the owner really feel it necessary to talk to the tackle from Penn State? No offense.
Right. He's out on that
one. He probably doesn't feel the necessity to do that and would leave that up to Adam Peters and everyone else to go, look, we got to take this guy. He's too good, right? Or whatever.
Right. Yep.
But when we're talking about, are we picking Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, or Drake May, and that person is going to be the literal representative on the field of the team for hopefully a long time. It is the first draft pick they're going to make. It's the first. It's of massive consequence because it's going to be a quarterback.
Right.
I get it for all of those reasons, but I know that there was the don't do Snydery things, which is what got everybody real bent out of shape really fast. And I'm like you. I agree. It's a guys. In fact, in most cases, I'm guys.
Right,
Everyone wants to ring the 5-alarm fires. I'm the one who never wants to ring the 5-alarm fires. And in this case, I feel the same way about it. Like, give these people a chance to work. We don't know them yet.
That's right. That's right.
Which I think is important also to point out here. Everybody wants to just take the mistakes of the past and go, don't replicate those. And it doesn't mean that him sitting in the room means he's going to be Dan Snyder as an owner, which is why you need to give him a chance to work too. He was probably in the room when Joel Embiid was drafted.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Just relax for a minute here. Everybody relax.
RELAX.
RELAX. That said, I did get why people got upset. And I knew they were going to the second I saw it because it's an unusual thing to tweet. And then when I saw it, I went, did they tell him that? And if they did, why did they tell him? Like, what would be the reason to say that? Especially if you're in PR here, you have to know that might not land the way you want it to.
Yeah, it almost screams to me a little bit. Somebody said, oh, let's tell them that he's involved in this, and it'll reassure them without realizing it's going to have the opposite effect for a lot of people.
You brought in Adam Peters. We believe he should make the decisions. Let's get out of his way and let him make the decisions. What's your decision, sir?
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, right.
That's where we are with this,
right? Which
is also unfair.
Correct.
Because, he also is not going to get every draft pick right. So everybody needs to chill out for a second here. We're all just super excited. That's all. We're just super, super, super excited. And we're all paying very close attention. And we're all a little scarred from what happened in the past. And anything that resembles anything of the previous regime, freaks everybody out real fast.
There's a part of this, too, that I think people need to realize. Let's be realistic about everything laid out in front of them. They have the number 2 overall pick. They're probably not getting Caleb Williams, right? Like 99% chance they're probably not getting
unless
him.
Something's happening in the background.
But
where he's trying to direct that he wants to go.
But let's call it 95% they're not getting Caleb. Okay.
If he says he's willing to play in Chicago, it is my belief the Bears will select him with the first overall pick, and I don't know how they don't.
Well, everything past Caleb has been, Drake May and Jaden Daniels are both very good quarterbacks, very different quarterbacks, but really what everyone has basically come on to now is depends on your preference, but you really can't go wrong with either one. Well,
I'd like to see Cliff Kingsbury's profile there.
Correct. Well,
because his quarterback may look like Drake May sitting in the pocket, and his quarterback may look like Jaden Daniels going 0 to 20 like a Porsche running out of the pocket.
Exactly.
Right?
And so for all we know, though, is Dan Quinn likes one guy, Cliff likes one guy, Adam Peters likes another guy, and maybe Josh is the one that they go, what did you think? Not that we're going to make it your decision, but what are your gut instincts on this too?
Correct.
Like there's nothing wrong with that. He owns the effing team.
They also, and this also falls in line with another thing that they've shown here early. And the danger in this is always the old credo of you can't have too many chefs in the kitchen.
Right.
They are open to having a lot of chefs in the kitchen.
Sure. Right.
No one's Gordon Ramsay yet.
Yes, chef.
Right. Nobody is Gordon Ramsay yet.
No one's the bear yet.
No one's screaming cousin at everybody. Okay? They haven't done that yet.
No one's getting accidentally stabbed in
Listen,
the butt.
They haven't done anything wrong yet.
That's right.
And therefore, whatever they do is fine when it's groupthink.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? It's all fine if it's groupthink. Once they make a mistake, that's when, and they're not going to get every draft pick right. They're not going to get every free agent right. Like nobody does. Then we'll have that. But for now, we are in honeymoon, full on honeymoon. But it is also fallen in line with how they've dealt with everything so far.
Yeah.
He's got a very large group of investors in his, and they're actively involved. Magic Johnson's involved. Mitchell Rales is involved. Mark Ein is involved. A lot of people are involved. Some of the people from his other businesses that have taken prominent roles here, they're involved. Jason Wright is involved in a different way now. It's very clear he has been told to stay on the business side, which is fine. But he is very involved. They've made him a spokesperson again. He's doing interviews a lot. So he's very involved. When they went and looked for a coach, they brought in an ex-GM of a dynasty of a basketball team. They brought in an ex-NFL executive. They're asking Steve Kerr about Dan Quinn. They're asking everybody. So this also falls in line with how they come to decisions. They want a lot of people in the room, and then they want to come to a decision. At some point, there will be disagreement. It's how do they handle that, and then who wins, and then if that person is right.
Right.
And ultimately, it's all well and good if everybody raises their hand and says, it's Daniels over May, we all know it. I have a feeling that that's never going to be the case, that there's always going to be a difference of opinion. And then we'll have to see how that all shakes out. But this is how he's run things so far. Like, I feel like, and this is, for me, who's really close to it and tries to intimately get to know it, I don't know how these people work yet.
Right.
It's going to take some time. Also, they don't know how they work yet because they never worked together before, which is an interesting way to get off the ground. Like, I like the hirings they've made. It's all very exciting. I like the staff that was built. I think people have warmed up to Quinn fast after hearing him talk and hear what people say about him. Everybody loves Peters and thinks he is Bobby Beathard too. Better looking Bobby Beathard. That's what Aura Man. Like everybody's got Aura Man. He's Marvel Universe Aura Man. Like everybody loves him. And I hope everybody's right about this. And of course I want them to be right about this. And I'm optimistic too. But we don't know how these people really work. We can only go off of what we've seen. Mm-hmm. We found out the ways in which Rivera worked that didn't work for the team.
That's right.
But it took a long time, and you had to give him the benefit of the doubt and give his way a chance. Same thing's happening here. It's just very different.
Yep.
And he has been, Harris, extremely inclusive of people he believes can help come to the right decisions. Well, that's the way they work. And until proven otherwise, and they close ranks or close the doors or don't make it as collaborative, then that's how we're learning how they work. So this actually, I'm with you, guys, it actually falls in line with the way they came to a decision about the GM, with the way they've come to a decision about the coach, which the way I think they're coming to decisions about his coordinators, I don't know. I think they let Dan do a lot more of that than I'd have to ask him, but I think. But it's been an extremely collaborative process. Like, people acted a little surprised when both Marty's, Herney, and Mayhew ended up staying with the organization. I was the least surprised person in the room. As of October and November, I knew that they were having conversations with the ownership, that they were trusted, respected voices in the room. It didn't surprise me for a second that both of them ended up carrying over and staying with the organization, because Harris wants to talk to people he thinks are smart and can help him come to a final decision. It doesn't empower all of these people, but that's how he works. So hearing that he's in the room, and there's probably a lot of people in the room, from the limited amount of time I've seen them work, falls in line with how they've handled every major decision. And don't get this wrong. This is the biggest decision they've had to make since they took over the team. Picking this player who plays this position for this team, knowing how starved everybody is, the chances of them turning it around on the field is based around getting it right on this player.
Correct.
So of course he wants to be involved. Now, is he asking him weird questions? Then I'll get freaked out. But as far as I can tell, he's not.
Not get the Des Bryant treatment.
I don't know him very well yet. I don't know how they work yet. But the sense I get from him, which is different than Snyder. Snyder walked in the room. He did listen to people. If they convinced him, his mind was made up.
Yep.
Or his mind was already made up.
That's right. And then
they
changing. Yeah.
snap judgment.
Yep.
And then if they messed up, he yelled at you for telling him to do the wrong thing.
That's right.
Even though there was no forethought or decision-making process. He went with his gut.
Yep.
I don't think that's the case with this person. I think he wants to be intimately involved, but is actually very careful about how he thinks about things, and he does actually listen to the people around him. And so I'm hoping that's the case. And I think that's what's being exemplified here. This is not out of line of the prominent examples of decisions they've had to make up to this point have included a lot of people in the room, including him, and him never being the one to say, I decided this or I decided that, but more saying, I spoke to all of these people who I trust and we all collaboratively came to these decisions. So that's what I think is happening here. And that's why I'm with you. This is a guys. This isn't Snyder going, well, I just like him and so we're taking him.
Right.
I actually think he's sitting back listening and he's going to hear out everybody because this is a tough decision. And the reality also is, let's just say Caleb is off the board because I think that's a no-brainer for them at number 2. If for some reason the Bears go a different direction, it's a no-brainer, in my opinion, that they take him. But assuming 95% that's not the case, it's one of these other two, the reality is the likelihood of both being good is slim. This is a tough decision.
Sure. And not only about the immediate turnaround, but really, if it does work out for you, this is the guy that's in uniform when the new stadium opens up.
Correct.
This is the guy whenever that rebrand happens that you're going to peel out there and put out there that is going to have whatever the new look is. Like, there's massive implications that I think people don't even really realize that are going into this.
Do you remember what happened when they drafted RG3?
Right. Yes, I was there. I was in the building.
It is a massive, massive pivotal moment.
Yes.
It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but the excitement level and the possibility changes overnight.
Yes.
More than even changing a coach.
Hope sells more than anything else.
More than changing a coach. Whichever coach you wanted, whether it was Ben Johnson or whoever you wanted or thought that they were going to end up getting, the hope for the turnaround will not be as high for that person as it will be for whoever they select with the number 2 overall pick, and they start showing his highlights to everybody, especially if it's the guy out of LSU who runs like a track star. And you're going to go, oh, my God.
That's right. Right.
And then he backs up and throws a perfect bomb 80 yards down the field to a guy who's wide open because the dude on Arkansas can't cover anybody. But that's not the point right now. Those are my favorite.
Yeah,
my favorite highlights are
coverage. Yeah.
Whenever they show any highlight reel of a prominent draft pick, especially against a team that's not in their conference, I'm like, that's a waste of time.
Right.
Like, that guy is on the JV team of his high school that somehow got to that college, and there's no chance he should be guarding Justin Jefferson ever.
The white corner on Citadel can't cover anybody.
Right. Show me the LSU-Alabama game.
Right.
Show me the LSU-Florida game. Show me the LSU-Georgia game.
Right.
Those are the ones I want to see. How did he do in those? Just like C.J. Stroud last year, I went, when he almost beat Georgia, I went, that guy made a lot of money tonight because look who he played and how he played against them. He ain't scared of nothing. This dude can play on that level. Let me go watch those Jaden Daniels games, which is actually what scares me out in May. Go watch that Virginia game.
Yep. Right. Yep. Exactly.
Everybody has bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
But that ain't pretty.
And that's a bad team. I watched a lot of Virginia and listened to a lot of Virginia on our airwaves. And yeah, it's not. That wasn't a team that shouldn't have beaten them at all.
And granted, like LSU lost games too.
Of course.
You know, he also was at Arizona State. They lost a lot of games when he was there. They weren't a prominent team when he was there. So they lost a lot. So I don't want to dump on May, but just show me the games against teams that matter. And those are the highlights I want to see. Show the dime he throws against Alabama or how him outrunning some corner from Florida.
Sure.
And then you can make a better assessment of the whole thing.
I was actually proud of this. Mel was on with the morning show, and Mel talked about something.
He loves Daniels, by the way.
Yes, and he actually talked about something I've been talking about on all my fill-in stuff in my show. About a month ago, I started this up. Daniels reminds me of Burrow, in that Burrow, remember, he wasn't talked about until about halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, this guy might be legit. And then it was the momentum that propelled him to the number 1 overall pick because he had a number 1 team around him, essentially. But then it started to show he had the moxie. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, you're watching the film, and this guy's a gamer. Daniels, not in the same sense, because Burrow might have been on the best college team of all time, right? But with Daniels, It's this momentum that's propelling him into the 2 spot, essentially, that I love. I think this seems real to me every time we get one of these guys. Not every draft, but every couple of drafts, we get a guy that basically takes the second half of the season into the draft talk, into the combine, and all of a sudden, he's the number 2 prospect. I love that prospect every single time because it doesn't seem like the moment gets too big for that guy. Daniels is why I'm loving him more than May. And yes, May had some bad games against some bad teams, obviously, but the momentum on Daniels is what's selling me on it because that just doesn't happen overnight.
I've spent, I saw a lot of Caleb, and then I've also kind of like shutting my brain off to the idea we're going to get him because I just don't feel like we're going to, and I'm going to be sad for the rest of my life if he is Mahomes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, rightfully so.
But with the other 2, I've watched a lot of them now because I'm preparing for the team to take one of them, and they're very, very different players. Mm-hmm. I do see, I see a Herbert level upside to May. I do. I think that's possibility for him. And then I watch Daniels and I go, the real reason why I want Williams or Daniels is being as close to the game as I am now. I think this game is really a lot about the off schedule stuff. And May is not unathletic. He is athletic, but he's not that.
Yep.
And when you get it right with a guy who can do both, it becomes practically impossible to defend.
Right.
Like Fields, and this is why I think wherever he goes next, if he gets the right coach, could become this. Like he just needs to be in the right place because he's capable of becoming Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Like he's very, very, very capable of that. Whoever gets him, they put the right coaching staff around him. They're going to look like the smartest team in the league for going and grabbing him and doing it. And, there's other places where it doesn't quite work right. Like we don't know if Anthony Richardson is going to become this or not, but he might. He went as high as he did because of the level athlete that he is. And I feel like in this day and age, granted, Burrow is mainly a stationary quarterback. Brady was definitively a stationary quarterback. So it's not like they don't win. They do, but they have to be exceptional. And if they're not exceptional, they're in trouble these days, which is why I prefer the off-schedule quarterback now. Because if you get it right with that person who can be good from the pocket, but is capable of doing things a defense cannot defend with their legs, then I think you have a better chance to mask over any deficiencies that you have.
Yep.
And the reason why I love Caleb is his instincts. Like, he's not as fast as Daniels, but he can run.
Right.
But he's not as fast as him. But his instincts are off the charts. He does things off schedule that are just impossible to coach, which is why I want him. Daniels looks like, to me, a smaller version of Fields, where right system, right coaching, teaching the right time to go and the right time to stay, you're going to have a dynamic playmaker. You get a guy who's going willy-nilly just running around, he could turn into Kyler, where there are good moments, and then there are moments where you're like, what is he doing?
All-time bad moments, yeah.
What is he doing?
Yeah, right.
So, I think it will matter. But to me, if Caleb's off the board, I want Daniels at this point. If Caleb's on the board, it's not even a question.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they'll both be on the board. I think if the Bears, could they change their mind and go Daniels? I think their fans are going to freak out if they do that.
Yes, correct.
I think they kind of have to take Caleb if they trade Fields. That's what I think, just because I think the public pressure is going to be so high on them. But I think they're going to want an assurance from Williams before they trade Fields that that's what we're going to do, because we can't trade Fields definitively if you're not going to come here.
That's right.
So we'll have to see how it goes. All right, let me take a quick break. We'll talk about RFK moving forward next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. There's great Lenny Kravitz from 1999, Throwback Thursday this week, because that is the last time until this year the Washington now Commanders are going to play in a stadium that is not called FedEx Field.
That's right.
Currently, it's called Commanders Field.
Yes.
We just found that out today, right? Yeah. On the site, on the Commanders site.
I actually went to Wikipedia because I wanted to make sure we had everything correct, and it was listed as Commanders Field on Wikipedia. And I go, did someone just do that? And then I went to commanders.com, And the tab that originally said FedEx Field now says Commanders Field.
Commanders Field.
So that is our official name for now.
We're going to get Jason to work on that one and see if he can figure out who the new primary sponsor is of the team. And we'll see if that happens before this season rolls around.
That's right, yes.
1999 was the last time it was not FedEx Field. It was then Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, of course, for the namesake of the owner who built it. So of all things, that you can blame Dan Snyder for, that's not one of them.
Right, yes.
This is the one thing that preceded him. And considering it was called Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, maybe we should call it Josh Harris Stadium.
Harris Stadium.
Or maybe we should call it Magic City.
Oh, Magic City. What goes on there after the games?
Or what Smoot would like to do with it.
Yeah.
He wants to turn it into a giant outdoor party. One day I'll have him on. One day I'll have him on to talk about his idea.
Oh, yeah.
For FedEx Field post, whatever, when we move somewhere, wink, 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 RFK, which apparently went through with flying colors yesterday.
Overwhelming. Mark Allen tweeted about it.
Yeah, overwhelming vote to move it along the bill that we've been waiting for years. The Republicans basically steamrolled through committee, passed yesterday on the House floor overwhelmingly without really any objection. It now goes to the Senate. The Senate needs to take it up. Once they do, hopefully they vote on it. The Senate is not Republican controlled. It is practically 50-50, but technically under Democratic control. Is this a controversial bill? I don't see how it is. It's just ceding over land back to the city to allow them to do what they see fit for it.
Right. Yep.
It really has nothing to do with potentially getting a stadium or not. It's just who has control over the land, and allow the citizens and the representatives of the District of Columbia to make that determination for themselves, have the destiny to do what they want, wink, 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 build a stadium for Josh Harrison Group. So that's the next step. It's got to go through the Senate, and then if it does go through, then we should be heading towards the next pathway, which is Muriel and the city council hammering out, what they're going to do with the land. There will be objection there. Bowser's made it extremely clear she wants it to be a stadium for the Commanders. How that's going to be paid for will be interesting. Go ask Ted about those type of items. That'll be interesting.
Yep.
How does that work out? And will there be enough significant pushback from members on the council to try to block it, a la Louise from Richmond and the Potomac Yards project? And there will be. I'm sure whoever is the representative of the constituents down near RFK is going to have to hear them out on they don't want a giant stadium in their backyard. Duh. But that's one vote out of them, and the majority of the others, especially if the Virginia project goes through, I think are going to come around to, well, we better do this.
Got to do something,
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they can end up empty-handed in a situation like this. I think the best case scenario is Ted gets blocked, has to crawl back to D.C. They figure out something to help him out and appease him, and hopefully he doesn't get all wonky and try to move again. And then they still get RFK, and they put the Commanders down there, and then all's well that ends well, and then all of our teams are in the city, which would be really unbelievable if that actually happened.
It would be massive. The weirdest one would be Bizarro World, where if Ted doesn't get through into Virginia, and then guess where there's going to be an open slot of land? Landover.
Yeah.
And Ted could start talking to Maryland if he really wanted to.
I'm going to go home now. Back to Landover.
All of a sudden, we get the
Stars and Stripes parking lot, Liberty Bell.
See, what do we call it? The Cap Center, because it's round two.
We're going to have the HF Festival again.
Wait. I'm on board all of a sudden if we're talking about that again.
What is the name? Someone brought it up recently of the documentary that was done in the parking lot at the old, Capitol Center, US Air Arena, that was an old, it was like a rock and roll show, but it's like this really famous documentary that was done from the parking lot of it.
I don't. That's before my time.
I got to find this. If I have my old movie theater where I show movies that I like and have parties around them, it would be one of the things that I probably show on a special. I'll look it up during the break. But there's this famous music documentary that was done, and I think it was around an HF festival or something like that. And it's like a slice of time in history in the parking lots in Landover before a show that included Judas Priest. And I gotta find it. I'll look it up. It's amazing. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but it's perfection.
There is a because it just popped up. I guess there's a petition to do a documentary, so maybe they're trying to get it funded. I don't know.
No.
What
This
I'm
is
saying
an
here.
old documentary. It was done in like the 80s.
Okay.
And it's
All right.
people drinking out of the backseat of their convertible cars, and it's wild. Anyway,
Feast Your Ears? Is that what it's called?
I'll look it up. I'll find
All right.
it. I got to
Because
find
that's what it said. That's popping up, and it says the story of WHFS. That's what it says.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, so it's Feast Your Ears, the story of the WHFS festival.
Yeah. And they're in the parking lot at Capitol Center.
Let's see.
Yeah. The whole thing. The man on the street interviews are unbelievable.
It's making me do like
All
a login. But either way, I
Anyway.
think that's what it is. Yep.
So this is all with RFK. Good news. Like, really good news. I mean, I don't care if they build Commander Land. I knew that, like, the previous administration wanted Commander Land, which included a stadium.
Right.
They can't do that down at RFK.
Correct.
But it certainly is. And I think who was it? Who was the actor we played the other day that said they're going to change the name?
Jeffrey
Wright.
Yep.
He called it. I thought it was the right way to put it. He said that's their spiritual home.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I
Correct.
mean, that's it's the hallowed ground.
Yes.
It is the spiritual home. Doesn't mean they're going to go back there and start winning again, but there's just something about that flyby when you go down there and you see the monuments and the rivers kind of connect and you're in the city proper and there's something about it. So, listen, I've said this all along. I never thought it would happen. My bet, I was betting against it happening because of red tape, but I want it to happen.
Of course.
It's not like I don't want it to happen.
Well,
I just didn't want to get my hopes up because you got to get Congress to play along, which has been impossible for a long time. And we're still only step 2. It had to go through committee. Ding. It had to be voted on at the House. Big ding. That's a big step.
That's right.
Now the Senate has to take it up, which who knows if they will or they won't. But assuming that they do, well, it's not Republican-led, so it's not a slam dunk as this one was, but there seemed to be no opposition. So I'd like to think that that's going to happen, but who knows when. So the boxes are getting checked off where this can happen. The reason why I was always kind of like poo-pooing it was because I just think they would ever check off all the boxes. Because there's too many of them.
Yep.
There's too many people who have to weigh in on this to even let it happen in the first place. Well, it sounds like some of these people are getting out of the way, which is really good news. And honestly, if it does happen, it'd be an amazing outcome for them to build a world-class stadium at the place where they had their greatest times and build whatever their version of SoFi or whatever. It's going to be very modern, whatever it's going to be down there.
Well, and I think part of this, though, has always been, I don't think we ever realized just how stagnant Dan Snyder owning the team was. Like, people didn't trust Dan, especially towards the end. Like, that's essentially why he had to sell, right? He couldn't secure a new site, essentially.
It was about money.
Yes.
And ability to get a stadium is the reason why he was forced to sell by the league.
Right. And so, but here
less to do with the other stuff. The other stuff was terrible, obviously.
Of course, but
that's
no, we're in
that stuff
agreement on that.
lingered for a long time.
Yeah, we're in agreement on that. But what's happening here is Harris, established businessman that people want to work with. Then you have a guy like Magic Johnson, who's literally worked within this community here in the DMV. They're way more trustworthy. They just know that if they get this done with the people in this organization now, that it's so much more trustworthy than the last time around. That's why the red tape existed last time, because people were going, are we really going to hand this guy this site? Like, I think that's where the hesitancy came in with Dan owning the team. Now with Harris, and especially, like I said, Magic Johnson, they've seen how it benefits the area, too. I think people are way more open to work with these guys.
Phil, let's see. How's this going to work out? Let's say this all kind of goes through, which I still think is a long way away from happening. And Ted's learning this.
By the way,
There's no slam dunks.
By the way, we're both in agreement. We've always said for years, you and I, that no matter what happens at the site, the city should have control of it to do whatever they see fit.
The bottom line is it's a decrepit piece of land that's extremely valuable property that for some reason we're not allowed to do whatever we want
Right,
with it.
which is ridiculous.
Which doesn't make any sense.
With how
right?
precious land is in the
Correct.
city.
So in the end, whether there's a stadium there or not, this is good for the city. And that's what I've always felt like. Our elected leaders should be making the decisions of what that use case of that land is. It should not be a decrepit raccoon den. That we're paying $1 million
right,
to feed the raccoons.
That's right.
Now, there is a big question. Where are the raccoons going to go? Because that's not going to be pretty.
We'll worry about that later.
Yeah. The people at the wharf are like, ah!
Yeah.
There's going to be some massive influx of raccoons running around somewhere because they took our house down.
Where are the rats? We need to diverge them into each other and just let them fight it
They're
out.
going to go somewhere. So this feels like now.
Name.
Okay.
It's the new team name, DC Raccoons.
The DC Raccoons. I think that this team is going to figure out a way to have headquarters in all 3 jurisdictions now. The stadium goes to RFK if they can make that happen.
Yep.
We're still steps away, but obviously Mark Hines tweeting about it.
Sure.
They want it to happen. Clearly they want it to happen. What happens with FedEx Field at that point? Well, it gets redeveloped. Into what exactly?
Right.
I don't know. Will it be something team-related or not? I don't know.
Right.
Is that a training facility? I doubt it, but I don't know. Maybe.
Did you know that the skeleton of FedEx Field, this just tells you how far back things are, the skeleton of FedEx Field was constructed in a way that it could be torn down and
To be a shopping mall.
To a shopping mall.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is
Yes.
that's not happening now. But
I don't
what do you
think
want
so.
what do you want it to become now?
Who knew?
Shopping malls dead,
Shopping
playa.
mall. Yeah, right. What do you? Welcome to Zombie Land.
That's right.
I don't know what they're going to do with it, but they have it.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that become? Is it team related? Do they just sell the land off? Do they do something with it? I doubt that they leave Virginia. I don't know. They already moved the business offices to College Park.
That's right. Yep.
Which might be a precursor to they become part of whatever new development in Landover there is.
Right.
That's a lot closer to the stadium than Ashburn is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they have to keep a flag in Virginia to maintain the rights to the online sports gambling and the book. So I don't think they would vacate Virginia. So my guess is the Commanders have some kind of flag planted in Virginia, whether it's the training facility or not, and they probably will tell them that's what they want them to have. Maybe they move that facility closer in, not as far out. Who knows, right? Maryland is a wild card. Maryland could be the trade, could just be the business offices. They've already moved them, to a different spot.
Sure.
Could be a star like Dallas did and do a whole full-on development that's kind of Commanders related. Commanders Town. Is that that's Commanders land?
Right.
And then the stadium ends up at RFK because you got to give the people what they want. And that's what they want.
I'll say I reverse it. Besides RFK, I reverse it. I think because the business offices are temporary in College Park.
Temporary, but I think it's a precursor to we're staying here.
But I think it's flipped. I think ultimately because FedEx Field does exist with a football field there, you make that the new training facility.
You could turn it into the training facility and then build out around it.
And then I think you move the business into Virginia so you maintain that footprint there as well.
Sure.
And I think that's what
I think they have to do something in Virginia.
Because I think what happens ultimately here is you're not gonna build your new facility on that same piece of land in Ashburn. You're probably going to sell that land in Ashburn. It's worth so much money out there.
Yeah, no, that facility, I've talked about this a lot, especially through the NFLPA thing. It's just old, and they're really, if you know the footprint, there's not much they can do about it because it's hilly. It's just not conducive to do the modern thing. So they've just got to move out of it, unfortunately, at some point.
And so what I'm getting at is it's much easier to just sell that land, open up a new business operation or wherever you want the business operations, and then you build the brand spanking new facility out in Landover once the stadium starts to get, torn down, essentially. So I think it's reverse. I've always said Landover is going to remain in play, and that's why also Westmore smartly has kind of just said similar things of hey, you still play here, and that land is you can do whatever you want there. He's smart to play it out this way, too, because he knows even if I lose the stadium here, they own all of this. I don't want them to pull out completely of Maryland. So I do think Landover is in play to be the new training facility.
No doubt about it. Last thing on this, Jason Wright did do a couple of interviews, and one of the notable things he said was that the team is not likely to be out of FedEx Field. Well, not FedEx Field. Commanders Park.
Field.
Yeah, Commanders Field. They're not likely to be out of there by 2027 when the lease is up. Now, remember, they own the property, so they could just release it. It's not a big deal to stay. It's never going to be a big deal to stay. But it's 2024. They haven't even secured the land.
That's right.
They may be there until 2030.
Right.
Dependent how long it takes to actually acquire the land that they want. And they're going to let this RFK thing play out as long as possible.
Correct.
I believe that they're going to have a resolution of whether the district can even work with them before the election. Because if this gets around where the Senate doesn't hear this before the election, it's over again. Yep. And then the Commanders just have to move on, unfortunately.
Yes.
They're going to have to. But assuming, because the steps were taken, that it is going to happen in short order, and then we'll find out, does the DC City Council get their hands on it? We'll see how quickly they're willing to act. And again, in an election year, who knows? They're also running too. So who knows, right? Who knows? But hopefully we will know by November, are they willing to do a stadium deal? Well, that's 2025. So let's just say they just get a deal done in 2025. You're not building what you're talking about in 2 years.
That's right.
So all Jason was telling you was it's just not realistic.
The timeline's not there. Yeah,
it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted this to happen 2 years ago. Unfortunately, it did not. And fortunately, we're not in Dumfries.
Right.
So, because that almost happened, guys. Like, that was probably closer than anyone wants to really believe.
Commonwealth Commanders.
Oh, man. Old Town Squires.
Oh, God.
Right down the street from the Old Town Squires.
Could you imagine there might be a world where every team moved to Virginia? Like, we were very close to that.
That would, see, I didn't mind if the Caps and Wizards did, but I can't have everybody go there. I can't have that.
The Nats are like, look at us, playa.
Yeah, DC United's like, we still here, baby.
Yeah,
we still here. We here, baby. All right, be right back. Bram Washington Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. 9. That was the last time the Commanders, then Redskins, played at a stadium that was not called FedEx Field. Back then, it was still called Jack Kent Cooke Stadium for the namesake of the previous owner who built it out in what was then called Raljon, Maryland, before it went back to being Landover,
That's right.
Maryland. Raljon was for Ralph and John, a combination of their two names, his two sons. John had not nice things to say about Dan Snyder through the years and was seemingly a little ticked off that Daddy put the team up for auction and didn't allow him to just carry on the legacy of the team. And now, officially, according to the Commanders, it is called Commanders Field.
Right.
For now, yesterday, FedEx Field dropped out of the naming rights deal that they had a couple years early. And the Commanders are going to be fast at work trying to find out who the new name of the stadium is. Your bet is Fanatics Field, right?
Yeah,
they already have a sports book there.
Would.
If I had to bet, I would be on your side.
Seriously, they just spend so much money. They have more money than they know what to do with, clearly.
Yeah.
My guess is it's Fanatics.
That's what I think, too. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, I mentioned this yesterday. Ortho Virginia became a primary sponsor of the training facility.
Yep.
So I don't know if they're throwing that kind of cash around to put the name on the stadium, but they would be someone I would watch, too.
You know, my group chats, we would love it for it to be Beauty Island Stadium.
Beauty Island Stadium would be good. Bed's Chili Bowl Stadium.
Bed's Chili Bowl would be great, too.
That would be good. Wolf Season.
Wolf Season Stadium. That's a good ring. Red Wolf Season Stadium.
Red Wolf Season Stadium.
That's a mouthful, clearly. But
yeah, Smoot would go crazy. Oh, this is the best place ever, Bram.
By the way, only because I read it on Wikipedia, did you know they changed the name of the stadium mid-season? They sold the rights and they changed it November 21st.
Oh.
So it was a mid-season stadium change.
Right.
So they actually did play that playoff game in 2000 under the FedEx Field mantra. So
they did.
Yeah,
all right.
That's a new one for me.
I like highlights of James Wood now. It's very fun to watch.
Wow.
I like his highlights. He keeps hitting home runs. He hit another one.
Oh,
today.
are we on opposite sides of the coin here? I think we might be.
What's that?
I'm so out. I just talk to me opening day.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm just saying, you know, it
gets a lot to get you to mention that, though, spring training action.
There's, not much titillating happens at 1 p.m. And every once in a while on a Thursday.
Well, it's like every day these days.
A Thursday on leap year. You don't really get a lot of that. And today I had another one. It was like, ding, check this out. And it's like, oh.
He rips another one to
look
center
at that.
field. Yeah,
Look at that. So, I'm just saying I like what I see with that. That's nice.
You want me to go full pessimistic over here?
Oh, no.
I'm just saying.
What?
This is how I am with the learners these days.
He's not going to play?
No. That's great. This is all really fun. When are you trading him or not signing him?
Oh,
because
I don't, what's his, they probably shouldn't bring him up because they want to control him longer, right?
He's
Isn't
playing
that what it is?
He's playing often these days. I think he's going for the opening day roster.
Well, he might be going for that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
are they going for that because they want to control his rights for as long as possible?
Have you seen their roster?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Who's better than him? Nobody.
Of course not. But that's not the point, though. The point may be we don't want to bring him up sooner because we don't want to start the clock on him. That's the problem.
Maybe, but he's raking a little too much now. Like, it's getting to be dangerous territory if you don't want to put him on the opening day roster.
guess.
And sorry if you put out Joey Gallo in the opening day roster.
Oh,
So,
he's going to be on it.
Yeah.
That was their big offseason signing.
that they spreaded their 1 year, $5 million deal over 3 years in deferred money.
Let's see. Bet Online. Next MLB Commissioner. They have lines out on that now because Rob Manfred is going to step down, not for like 5 years.
5 years, yeah. Right.
So he may change his mind or maybe he hates baseball. So
I
maybe not.
don't even see the list. Theo is number one, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Because Theo is the one that came up with the pitch clock thing. So,
so they think his idea, and he also likes baseball.
Correct. Yes.
Important trait.
Likes baseball. Got the
We want our next commissioner to actually like the sport.
Likes baseball. Arguably has orchestrated the two most important World Series wins in the last 20 years. Would you agree with me on that? He got the Red Sox back in the winning ways and the Cubs. Like,
he's the greatest executive in the history, outside of
Most
Branch
important.
Rickey.
Yeah, right.
He is the most
Yeah.
important executive in the history of the sport.
Correct.
He ended 2 curses.
Like, no one's going to beat his legacy because
Nobody.
we need someone else to lose for 100
So
years.
like when a team like the Royals call him, he's like, no, thank you.
No, I'm good.
Why
Like,
would I even bother?
Right. But he is arguably the two most important championships in the sport in the last 20 years. Came up with the most important change to the game in the pitch clock. Yeah, he should be up for the number one choice to be the next commissioner.
He doesn't have the look of the aura, but he's the aura.
Oh, no. He's, no.
Like I said, for baseball, he's good looking. But like,
And well, I would say this too. Like even Yankees fans are going, yeah, that guy's pretty impressive. Like he's got the respect of everyone around the game. So yes, who are 2 and 3 and 4 on the list then?
Dan Hallern,
Okay,
Chris Marinac,
Uh-huh.
Noah Garden, Morgan Sword.
Cool.
Who are these people?
Go Theo. It's Theo's job to lose, essentially.
We got one for you. Scott Boras.
Oh no! Stop it! No.
Wouldn't it be interesting if he went to the dark side, went on the other side, and showed the owners how to control the spending?
God. That's worst case scenario.
I like some of the others they've chosen. Barack Obama at 15 to 1.
Sure, yeah,
Cal
yeah.
Ripken 22 to 1.
Okay.
Cal, hon. Cal. Doug Glanville 33 to 1. Bob Iger 40 to 1. Bob Costas 66 to 1.
I like that. I like Bob. I like Bob Costas.
Or Bob Iger. You like
No,
Bob Costas?
Costas.
Yeah.
I know he would do the right thing.
He's gone full. I don't know if you've seen him lately, but like he's ticking off MAGA. He's gone full on like you all are a cult. That's what he's. Have you seen that?
No,
He
I
made
didn't
an
see
appearance
that.
on Bill Maher's show, and then he showed up on like CNN or something like that, and went full on at like the Trump supporters.
Oh,
And
at
they're-
them,
yeah,
like
yeah,
attacking
yeah.
them.
Attacking
okay.
them.
Okay. I thought you were saying he like
No,
joined
no.
them.
Attacking them.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No.
I thought he was showing up with the "Make America Great Again" hat again.
I can't even remember what the line was. The line was something like it wasn't good.
Okay.
They're not happy. Jason Stark 75 to 1.
Oh, I like that.
Tim Kirkchin 100 to 1.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Derek Jeter 100 to 1.
Oh.
And my favorite, Chris Mad Dog Russo at 150 to 1.
Where's A-Rod? How come A-Rod's not on the list?
A-Rod did not make the list.
Why not?
Amazingly. He did not.
If
make
Jeter's
the
on the list, why isn't A-Rod on the list?
They got Don Garber, the MLS commissioner, on it.
No, stop it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Theo. It's Theo.
Probably, but I would. If I'm the owners, I'd like to talk to Scott Boras about it and go, well, you've been on the other side of this and you've been fleecing us for years. Help us get control of all
Boris
of
has
this.
already hinted, though, he doesn't know how long he wants to do this, like how much longer he wants to do this. So why would he want to step into that side
I don't know.
if he's trying to hang it up?
Are you getting bored of getting $700 million contracts? Is
right.
that
Like,
boring
You
to
literally
you?
control the market on all these dudes. So.
Yeah. That's boring? No. Nobody gives up that power. No.
I guess. But
Not
it's-
until they change. The only thing that would get him to quit is if they ever implemented a salary cap.
yeah, probably.
And then
Yeah.
then it's like that's no fun anymore.
Right.
Because then you don't need 3 postseason runs anymore. It's like you're only going to get what you're going to get. Deal with it.
Right. No, that's true.
All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Watch the Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. How about Eminem from 1999? Throwback Thursday to commemorate the last time that the Commanders, then Redskins, played in a stadium that was not called FedEx Field, and it won't be this fall when FedEx dropped the naming rights. Yesterday, that news came out. Currently, we're calling it Commanders Field. So I got to get used to that.
Commanders Field.
I got to bang this into my head.
Until they get until it's Fanatics Field.
It was funny, like when we went through yesterday, who doesn't have naming rights, and that list was wrong. And you were telling me Arrowhead, and I went, nope, actually.
Right.
And I remember it was like PTSD because I've been calling it Arrowhead my whole life. And they made a point of saying, we really want you to say, we know everybody, like they said it nicely, like we know everybody forgets that we have naming rights here, but we do. And then it's a mouthful. It's GEHA at Arrowhead. And I'm like,
Right.
So I like forced myself to say, we played them in the preseason. I forced myself to say it a million times. I'm going to have to get used to this. Like, I still have yet on a game broadcast ever slipped and said Redskins. I've never said it once.
Right.
I can't believe I've never said it once, but I never said it once. And
have you used
the
it in a
chances
historical
of me
context?
not saying FedEx Field this fall at some point is slim to, which I'm going to have to beat it out of me that I
have
can't
you
say
used
it.
Redskins on the broadcast in a historical context, or no? Or you've just stayed away from it?
I think I just said Washington Legends.
Okay.
Is what
All
I just because I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
On the team broadcast, I don't know.
They don't send you talking points on that?
Well, now that Josh says it all the time, I think I'm going to say it, not feel bad about it. No, I didn't.
I just thought they would. Might be something they wanted you to study up on. That's all.
I can't say what I want to say to that. I can't say that.
I know. That's why it was funny.
Right.
That's why it was hilarious. That's
And
the
it's
funniest
funny.
thing I might have ever said on the show.
It's funny to me and you, and about 8 other people who are going, oh, here we go, can of worms. I hope Bram has got some professionalism in him. Because the truth is, I've never received talking points from that team.
Oh, okay.
Ever.
All right, got it.
About anything.
By the way, we came in there with Eminem. Did you know the Red Wings goal song is Without Me?
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
We heard that a lot the other night.
Oh, 8 times?
Yeah, 8 times.
Turn this off.
But I was like, great bit. Eminem, local artist. Good one. Good one on that one. But yeah.
I'd like to congratulate Bill Hillgrove. 30 years calling Steelers games. Retired today.
Yep.
Not retired, though. Apparently, he is going to still call Pitt. He's called Pitt basketball and football. So he called Hans's games. He called Hans his whole career.
I got to call him twice.
Yeah. And so he's called. So I guess he's staying on that, but he's retired from calling Steelers games. That's a legendary run.
Man,
30
who's gonna
years.
get that gig? That's gonna be a big name, right? You'd think.
I don't know. I don't
mean,
know.
You'd think it's gonna be a big name.
I don't know. I can only pray that I end up doing this for 30 years. That's what I hope. I
Right.
mean, my hope is to do this for a very long time. But congratulations to him. That's as we like to say in the business. That's a good run, Shug.
Awesome
that's
run.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Fantastic.
30 years calling the Steelers games. That's amazing. Let me think about that for a second, though. They did win. They won 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
2.
They won the
Cowher won one,
and then the
Tomlin. He won one, right?
Yeah, it was against the Cardinals. The Tomlin one.
Oh,
and
Seattle.
Then Seattle was
Correct.
the Cowher.
I was
Cowher
in
one.
the Olympics in Italy for that Super Bowl,
Got it.
and we watched it at like 4 a.m. I remember that. We watched it. Yeah.
There were two memorable things from that Super Bowl. One was the Willie Parker run that was so long it beat the Marcus Allen run. And
James Harrison had the craziest return at the end.
That was the Arizona game.
That was the Arizona
But
game. He had that crazy return at the end of the half that really was the
that
game.
Flipped the game essentially. Yeah. But then in the Detroit one, it was one of the first years after the Janet Jackson thing, and the Rolling Stones were the halftime show, and it was the worst halftime show I think out of the modern era. They were.
Yeah, you need somebody who's not 80.
They were
doing
terrible.
That. Yeah. I don't even know what. Did they have a new album? They must have had a new album.
No, I think
why else would
they
do it?
This was before the NFL got Jay-Z involved, and they were just going with like the safest act they could after Janet Jackson.
They were like, we got to, and then they like took a chance on Prince, and he still did a silhouette of you know what.
Sure, but it was still like. That's Prince. What are you going to do? But the Stones,
were asking for it when you brought
Stones,
Prince
they
up.
literally looked like they were lifted out of the crypt, essentially. And I was like, oh, God, guys, what are we doing here? It's Detroit. Go Motown. Do something. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah.
All right, let me play a few things for you here. Caleb Williams spoke. We talked about that yesterday. Did an interview with Pete Thamel of ESPN, and he said he would be excited to be drafted by the Bears, and then also did say he's not pushing an agenda. However, he did say, no matter how I feel, I will not push my agenda.
Right.
Which is kind of like I'll go there if you pick me.
That's right.
And I will try to be excited about it. But if you asked me the God's honest truth, I might tell you I want to do something else. And we're all sitting here going, please be us.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yep.
May or may not happen. We'll see.
Yep.
In the meantime, he showed up late to the combine, which... Who cares?
Whatever.
He's not throwing.
Yeah, right. He's not doing anything.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's doing medicals.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I thought this was interesting because we are in the NFL Network guys, the insiders who were on, I think it was Ian Rappaport, it might have been Peter Schrager. They were talking about
Peter Schrager,
this.
Tom Pelissero.
Yeah, and they were talking about this, how times have changed, and a lot of these players don't feel it necessary to go through this stuff any longer. So listen to this.
More hours of interviews tonight from 7 to 11 p.m. Caleb Williams is, in all likelihood, going to be the #1 overall pick Probably doesn't feel like he needs to spend time with all 32 teams at this point. Do expect him in town, but he's not going to work out. He's not going to do the medical. He's not going to do any of those other things. It's just going to be meet with a few of the teams, and then he'll probably be out of here, too. We'll see if he actually hangs around to even watch the drills on Saturday.
So this is part of the combine. You've got the drills and all the interviews, but then you've got all the scuttlebutt and the discussion. Has there been anyone raising a red flag to you and saying, could he have not just shown up and done the whole thing? Does he have to come in a day late, or is that one of those deals where it's like, hey, it's a new era. There's NIL money. This guy already knows he'll be the number one pick. Why are we even wasting his time with all of this?
I think that there's a little bit of both here. And teams just are always curious when anybody doesn't just go along with the normal plan of, why are you doing that? He doesn't have an agent. He's got a team of advisors that aren't really football people. He's also been essentially a professional football player for several years now, because this is the new world of NIL in college football, where he's been getting paid millions of dollars. He's been able to do endorsements. And again, no matter what he says or does in this process, he's probably still going to be the number one overall pick here. But still, you do have questions. All right, if he's not doing the medical testing, is he hiding something? The reality is, from my understanding, the theory toward that is just, I'm only going to be drafted by one, maybe, 2 or 3 teams might actually be able to get in the mix for me. Why am I going to give my private medical info to all 32 teams? I think people understand that. That's how it is in the NBA. The top draft picks don't go through all that stuff. They don't go through the entire combine process here. Maybe we're seeing that shift a little bit more in the NIL era, where guys are coming in, they feel like they're already at a different stage in their career, and they don't necessarily need to play along with everything the NFL puts them through.
How about that?
A trusted NFL source told me, said he's the first NIL quarterback. What does that mean? This is the first guy that has been making millions of dollars in the college ranks. He was an endorser for Wendy's. He did the Heisman House commercials. He was paid handsomely for that, and that's on top of the NIL money. So we're dealing with maybe apples and oranges comparing him to other quarterbacks in recent years who are going through this thing, having come from pure amateur athletics without the NIL. It's all interesting conversations that happen at the Combine, and, of course, we can have it back at the table. But we'll toss it back to you guys.
How about that? So they're basically making the case. He's made a lot of money.
Yep.
He doesn't feel like he has to talk to teams that he doesn't want anything to do with,
yeah,
or
exactly.
expects that they won't trade for him anyway.
Right. That's exactly right.
Which is part of it. I think they're basically saying well, he's maybe the test child of a few things that are going to come down the pike because he's the number one pick.
Right.
I don't know. Could Drake May do this? He's probably made a lot of money at North Carolina. Maybe not like Caleb did because he won the Heisman, but he probably made a good amount of money in NIL.
Right.
He would have gone somewhere else if he didn't.
Yep.
Right. So he probably did. He's not a lock to be the number 2 pick. He's not even a lock to be the number 3 pick at this point.
Right. Yep.
And then things get weird.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
He could be he'll still go in the top 10, I'm sure, but that's a lot of money. That's different. Mm-hmm. Does he feel that way?
Probably not.
Probably not.
My guess would be, but you
Right.
never know.
Does Jaden Daniels feel that way? I doubt it.
Doubt it. The thing is, we might finally be bridging the gap though from teams doing their due diligence. Remember, I'm trying to think of who it was. The Patriots would sometimes bring in a quarterback for a pre-draft visit, and people would be like, "You guys have freaking Brady. You're not drafting a quarterback." But maybe this is finally the age of guys going, "Don't waste your time." Oh, the Bengals are bringing you in for a meeting? You don't have to take that. The Bengals aren't getting another quarterback for another 15 years with Joe Burrow, right?
They're not picking
the
you.
Chiefs. The Chiefs. If the Chiefs asked you to do an interview, just do their due diligence, there's no reason for you to talk to them. They have the best quarterback ever right now. Maybe we're finally just bridging this gap where guys are saying, I don't need to waste my time.
Okay, I will say, though, to that, I agree with you. If the Chiefs call me and I'm a top-ranked quarterback, I'm going, I know you're not picking me.
Right.
Ever.
That's right.
And if all goes well, my career will be over before that guy's career is
That's
over,
right.
honestly.
Yes.
Because he's going to play forever, and I already know it. Forget it. I'm with you. However, meeting the assistant GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, who might be at another team in a year or two, is not a bad idea.
Good point. Good point on
not
that
a bad idea. I would, if I was an agent for any of these guys, I would meet everybody.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know where they're going to be. Who knew the assistant GM of the 49ers is now the GM of the Commanders. Yeah. And they're not picked because they're picking low. They're not picking Caleb Williams either.
That's right.
But if you were talking to the 49ers and he was there, you'd want to talk to him. In the same way, you'd want to meet Lance Newmark now, who also isn't picking a running back if you're a running back.
Yeah.
But now he's somewhere else all of a sudden. And maybe in a year or two, he's looking at you.
Yeah.
And he wants to bring you into somewhere else. So I think it's good just from a networking perspective not to ignore all this. Now, some of the other stuff, like throwing at the combine, if I'm Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, or Drake May, punt.
Yep. Right.
There's no upside.
Right.
You can see on film what we do.
Yep. That's right.
Look at the games.
Yep.
You don't need that. Maybe I'll have a pro day. If I'm Caleb Williams, I don't even do that.
Right. Yeah.
What upside is there? If I'm the presumptive number one pick, I'm not going to do a thing that may change that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may tell me I have to take a physical. Fine.
Yeah.
You know what I want? I want an NDA that you're the only one that gets to see it, because I hate that my medicals keep getting shared around to everybody. And then the last one is I would not take those tests anymore if I were these guys, especially.
Of course. Yeah.
After what happened to C.J. Stroud, and it's happened to others before, that they leak out that they didn't perform that well on them. No.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm sorry, but C.J. Stroud's the epitome of it's not a precursor of whether you're actually going to be good at the position or not. And the last thing you need is someone smearing you on the internet saying you're dumb.
Right. Exactly.
Like, just forget it. Like, I wouldn't do any of that stuff anymore. So some of this stuff, I agree. We're in a new time. 2024 player, I don't have to do all this stuff anymore.
Right. Yep, exactly.
But some of it, like meeting with people, I would do that. Even in his case, where he's probably going to be the number one overall pick. You know what? There may come a day that somebody with one of these other teams has this initial meeting with you, and they may want you no matter what because of your talent. But they also may know, like, I think it's good. So in his case, maybe it's a little different, but everybody else, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, anybody, I would take all the meetings that I could just to meet everybody in the league. I would.
Right.
Personally.
It won't help Williams' case if Williams ends up not being good. I will say that. Like, you are banking on yourself being so effing good that you don't have to worry about some of this stuff.
I got to tell you, though, like, things go wrong in Chicago. Like, say they pick him. Things go wrong in Chicago, but you did all the meetings anyway.
Right.
Someone else may say, give me a chance
Exactly.
with him.
Exactly. And that's where I
Give
think
me a chance with him. Like Zach Wilson right now, they gave him the opportunity, but not that this is a surprise. They told him, go seek a trade.
Yep.
What are they going to get for him? I have no idea.
Right?
Yeah. Like, anything, a conditional 6th round pick, like, what is it going to be? But hopefully he went to all these other people, and these other people said, you know what?
Right.
We're going to give you a chance. Now, I doubt it's going to be on that contract. Like,
course.
I think they're going to make him cut him so they get him for a low number and all that stuff. But, like, and they're not going to get a trade for him. I mean, who's giving up anything for him?
Yeah.
Like, cut him.
Right. Yep.
Still, it's the point. Like, he's the number 2 overall pick. It flamed out bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's probably other people that met him that went, you know what? Let me bring him in here. I think I have a good read on the guy, and that's important now for someone like him, because the people he doesn't know and hasn't met, they're going, that guy's a bust.
That's right.
I'm out,
Yep.
and I don't even know him. I'm out. You can't even pitch me on him. That's why I would say to all these guys, meet as many people as you can.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
The other New York Bing Bong Radio today, Aaron Wilson, who covers the league for the Houston Chronicle, is reporting that Saquon Barkley, if he doesn't re-sign with the Giants, wants to go to Houston.
Oh, okay.
And that he's even going so far as to say that he and C.J. Stroud are talking with one another, and they are very much in cahoots with trying to get something done. And I'll tell you what, that would be a massive upgrade for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Massive upgrade for them.
They took out arguably the best defense in the league in the playoffs last year.
And also,
like, easily. They blew them out.
and for me, I want him to go as far away as possible.
Course, yeah.
And Houston's a pretty good Houston, Siberia. They don't bother me. We'll never play him again.
Barkley's also going, I've been playing in this division my whole career. Give me that division any day of the week
Let's go.
compared to the NFC East.
Right. I still think the Giants are going to keep him. And I think he's got this love affair with New York, and he doesn't want to leave. But, I mean, does he really think he's going to win with the Giants next year? Because I think they're stuck with dimes again.
Well, and he's also looking at, are we better than the Eagles or the Cowboys? No, like, not at all, actually.
They need to get out of Jones's contract. Right. That was the big mistake. I was so happy when they did it, because I'm like, there's no chance. Like, this doesn't make them better. It makes them worse, and it just limits their flexibility. And the cap can go up whatever, but they're paying $40 million to an average quarterback. Good. That helps us.
Yeah, right.
So there's that. Bryce Huff is a name that I want to watch. The Jets were overflowing with pass rushers last year. He's apparently the odd man out. They said they're not going to tag him. I'm not surprised, because they have too many pass rushers on their team.
Yeah.
Like, big problem to have. He's a name I'm going to watch, that he's going to get put out there. On that end, I did see the interviews with Adam Peters where he did essentially say, just because we have $90 million does not mean we're going to go buck wild and spend all of it.
Yeah, right.
And he said, we're going to try to be careful with the whole thing. Not that they're trying to save any money. And it doesn't appear as if this organization is asking anybody. This ain't the Angelos family right now. Like, nobody's asking to save any money at this point. But I actually agree with that sentiment. You don't just do things to do things because you have the money to spend. You got to pick the right people. You're getting off on the right foot. I think there's a runway here for this group. I think really honestly, if they pick a quarterback and they build out, they're going to have better players and they have money to spend. They've got very high draft picks. If this thing turns back into that they're trending back up again, and whichever quarterback comes in here looks like he's going to be a good professional for them, who potentially could be a really good professional for them, well, then I think everybody's going to be very happy with next year. So there's no, in my opinion, rush to come in here and spend a lot of money for the sake of spending a lot of money. So I think that they're actually thinking about it the right way. That said, we have a lot of holes. There are free agents. Go get some of them.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, look, you invest in the pieces that you know can contribute down the line too. Like whoever that offensive lineman that they need to add to the mix, you do that now. You add a pass rusher if it's right now. You don't have to spend it all in one place, essentially. But yeah, I think they do have to be cautious with this. And I've said this too as well. Is this the time of the year where now you go to John Allen and go, do you actually want to be here or not? Do we extend you out now? Because now we have this extra runway now with this extra cap space. Let's handle this right now.
Let's do it right now.
So then, you can kind of go like how the Nats did. They got their skeleton of a roster, and then they went and spent for Max Scherzer. Well, and they went and spent for some of those guys.
What's interesting, though, with either McLaurin or Allen, and more likely Allen, because the time is now actually to talk to him about that. They do have a tremendous amount of cap space. They could do this and extend it out to get more cap space, but you often do that to make room for other things.
Sure.
Well, if they're not thinking about it that way, like we have to get $15 million back to spend on this, well, then maybe you don't.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Maybe you don't do it.
All right.
Because all you're doing is you're doing it to extend him out. I don't know. Maybe you play out the year with him.
Play it out. Okay. Fair
Maybe.
enough.
He's still under contract the following year.
Right,
and the dead cap money goes down again.
Right.
So in most cases, like Dallas is going to get a deal done with Dak because they have to, because they have no flexibility. So they have to do something with him. Other teams do that too. You'll see the Saints do this all the time, where they change everybody's contract constantly because they're constantly kicking it down the road.
Cap hell, yeah.
Right. Washington's not in that spot right now. But they also don't so they don't actually need more cap space. It would help them.
Right.
But if their thought process going into the offseason is, we're not going to go buck wild and spend all this crazy amount of money, maybe they don't have to do that.
That's fair. Yeah.
I do want to hear from him. Do you want to be here, though, for sure?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I want to hear that. And it sounds like because there's been just no movement at all on that everybody is satisfied moving forward, whether it's with the current contract or an extended contract. The real next step for me, there are three people in general. Could Logan Thomas be a cap cut? Yes. Like they would save about $6 million on the cap if they did it. Charles Leno, they do not have depth at the offensive line. I think we all know they could improve at that position, but they don't have anybody behind him. They don't even have any young rookies that they could turn to.
Yep.
So that's going to be money that has to be spent on the open market. But there is significant savings by releasing him. I think something like $8 or $9 million that you would save on your cap. So there's some room there as well. Those are the two that I'm watching. And then the third is, of course, Cam Curl. Do they get a deal done with him? And I got to tell you, with the amount of cap space that they have, it's hard to make an argument that they can't get a deal done with him. But I think that, you set a precedent here. Your first major signing can't be an overpay because you're allowed to or because you have the room to do it.
Yeah.
So, but that's the first one I'm going to watch here very closely. Considering how quiet that is, I think he's going to come back.
Yeah, no,
That's what I have a feeling. Like
think
when
he is too.
things get real quiet like this, it typically means they're talking.
Sure.
And they've already acknowledged that they are. They even said they're not going to put a tag on him. So I think, and I don't think they should, personally.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but just because I don't think he warrants top 5 money. But I do think he warrants a nice contract. And hopefully they get a deal done.
Yeah.
I think he wants to be here.
Yeah, I agree.
He acted
I
like
agree.
a professional last year, like beyond a professional last year, amid making no money, and showed up to everything and participated in everything. Didn't do any of that, hold in none of it. He didn't do any of it. So I'd like to see him get rewarded. I think he's a very, very good player. And, with these new defensive coaches in here, I'm excited for what role he could play in all that. I hope they get a deal done with him.
Yep.
But those are the three I'm watching here.